Good evening and welcome on this Friday as large parts of the country head into a potentially volatile weekend of weather. In the Midwest, eyes are locked on the slow but steady rise of the Mississippi River, a spring snowmelt producing flooding across portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri. Scenes like this in Davenport, Iowa, expected to grow worse between now and Monday. But right now, it is the South once again facing the immediate threat of violent and dangerous storms. An estimated 21 million people living in the risk zone tonight. Texas this evening could be hit with large hail, 75-mile-per-hour winds, and tornadoes. And Florida, still recovering from yesterday's damaging storms, could be targeted for another round along the Gulf Coast. Maggie Vespa is watching it for us tonight.
Tonight, an unrelenting lineup of vicious spring weather stretches on, from a trail of tornado damage down south to widespread flooding along the mighty Mississippi.
I just don't know what the future holds. I'm sure that's what everybody else is thinking. How long and how high are these going to get over the next few years?
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers closing locks and dams from St. Paul to St. Louis, bringing barge traffic to a halt on the upper Mississippi River. Melting snowpack inundating cities like Davenport, Iowa, covering streets downtown. Waters slated to rise until Monday. A local gas company cutting service to 130 homes flooded nearby. Evacuees stuck in hotels.
Hopefully it will go down as fast as it came up and we can get in and start cleaning.
Down south, destruction is coming from the skies.
And blew out some windows.
At least 7 tornadoes reported across Georgia and Florida overnight. By the light of day, breathtaking wreckage and heartbreak.
Throwing away my stuff, my prized stuff.
This alongside pummeling hail and torrential rain. Floods stranding cars in Fort Pierce, Florida.
It was so much rain so fast.
And terrifying moments in Fort Worth, Texas, where 2 boys struck by lightning this week are now recovering.
Apparently I died last night and came back to life.
Their mom begging parents to keep their kids safe inside.
I know it's like a 1 in a million chance, but you never know. You might be that one. It was 2 for me.
A plea for caution amid a catastrophic mix of severe weather that just won't let up.
Maggie Vespa joining me now from Davenport. Maggie, Iowa's governor late today issued another disaster proclamation for part of that state.
Yeah, Lester, that's right. Residents in 7 counties and counting along the Mississippi River now have access to thousands of dollars in government grants to cover flood damage, and water here is still days from cresting. Lester?
All right, Maggie Vespa, thank you. And many facing more severe weather tonight and into the weekend. Others about to get drenched. Bill Cairns is here. Bill, walk us through it.
Good evening, Lester. Already baseball-sized hail reported in central Texas. Dallas had a really strong thunderstorm go through, and now we're watching 60-mile-per-hour winds with that line heading through areas of central Texas, especially the Austin area. This is what we're going to have for the next couple hours as these storms approach areas of Houston later on tonight. The severe weather, isolated tornadoes, large hail, and some damaging wind. Then tomorrow, we do it all over again. We bring the storms back to Florida, Panama City to Jacksonville, all the way through central Florida. Large hail, damaging wind, maybe an isolated tornado or two. Now let's talk about the weekend washout for millions of people getting their plans canceled. We're going to see the heavy rain heading up the eastern seaboard. Saturday, it looks pretty dry in areas of the mid-Atlantic, but then Sunday, it pours and it heads into the northeast as we go throughout Sunday evening. In all, about 1 to 3 inches of rain. Thankfully, Lester, it's been a pretty dry spring in the northeast. The flooding shouldn't be too bad.
All right, Bill Cairns, thank you. We have learned the Army is taking dramatic action tonight, grounding all its aircraft after the deadly collision of 2 Apache helicopters during a training mission in Alaska. Courtney Cubie is at the Pentagon. Courtney, this is a big step.
Yeah, Lester, it's a major move by the Army, just announcing moments ago a temporary stand down of all Army aviation assets, meaning no helicopters will fly anywhere in the world unless it's an emergency. Now, this comes after less than 24 hours after 2 U.S. Army Apache helicopters from Fort Wainwright collided in midair over Alaska, killing 3 soldiers and wounding another. The soldiers were returning from a training mission flying in daylight. This latest collision raising alarms after 2 other recent deadly helicopter crashes. A midair collision by 2 Blackhawks killed 9 troops near Fort Campbell during nighttime training last month, and 2 Tennessee National Guard soldiers killed in another Blackhawk crash in February. Tonight, we're told that no Army pilots can fly until they complete this new training. Lester.
All right, Courtney Cubey with that. Thank you. This was a devastating day in Ukraine where the most intense Russian airstrikes in nearly 2 months have killed at least 25 people, most of them in an apartment building as they slept. Ellison Barber is there tonight.
Tonight, a frantic search for survivors after a barrage of deadly Russian airstrikes. Rescuers combing through smoldering concrete and metal. It is all that's left of an apartment building in Uman after a missile hit in the middle of the night. Residents were fast asleep. Marina telling us she lives nearby and rushed over to help.
Is anywhere in Ukraine safe?
Nowhere. Nowhere. I moved a lot since the war started. Nowhere is safe.
Among the dead, at least 4 children. People here are overwhelmed with emotion. The safety of a home shattered by Russia's war again.
Russia claims they were targeting military-related spaces, but you look at the people here, the little ones included, and you realize what a residential part of the city this is. These are apartment buildings all around. This one, the apartment building that was hit the hardest, people who live here say this side of the building, that's where most of the bedrooms were.
These were the first large-scale Russian missile strikes in nearly 2 months, hitting several cities. A strike in Dnipro killed a toddler and her mother. In Kyiv, a child was injured. Back in Uman, we met Daria, a 20-year-old volunteer.
The most heartbreaking part was like the loud cries of women. I saw the man who was crying because he's the only one who's still alive from of his family.
Tonight, Ukraine's top military official says they are getting closer to launching that highly anticipated spring counteroffensive to try and take back territories now occupied by Russia. Lester.
All right, Ellison, thank you. In Mississippi and across the region, an intense manhunt is underway for 2 inmates who...
I want to back up real quick. Paying attention to the missile, paying attention to what it talked about a while ago pertaining to the Blackhawks. Seems to me like the Apache was a little less expensive, somewhere around $17 million per Apache, and the Blackhawk, depending upon what that it was, what how many advances has been made, can be from like $15 million to $40 million on the Blackhawk. I have said
it's
this.
It's an emergency. Now, this comes after less than 24 hours.
I have said this, and people did not pay any attention to my words and what I was talking about regarding artificial intelligence. Now, they're going to have a program on here pertaining to artificial intelligence of how that it is going to advance technology that much further, but the advancement has already happened in lots of different areas pertaining to the computer system. And in some cases, I personally believe, I can't prove it, that these evil demonic spirits can actually cause dashboards to look differently than what they actually look. In other words, these evil demonic spirits can manipulate what people are looking at, change the deception of it to the degree that maybe those missiles that did land on that hotel or on that area that killed 25 plus people, including children, maybe it was deliberately taken off course with AI. I've said this before. The satanic, evil, demonic, wicked spirits has all kinds of powers. No, they don't have powers exceeding God's powers, but they have powers, and just as the Bible talks about, that they will come down in great wrath because they know it, their day is short. It's not just coming down in the form of major storms or seeing cruelty pertaining to people grabbing up guns as far as the gun violence, but it's in every category you can think of. And I know a lot of people
less than 24 hours
are going to say,
U.S. Army.
"Oh, this guy's he's off his rocker. He don't know what he's talking about." Trust me, I do know what I'm talking about. Whenever I've seen manipulated equipment or manipulated stuff that had happened differently in front of somebody else versus me, whenever I've seen the same type of procedure that was supposed to happen to me the same as it did the person before me, and it didn't, you can say whatever you want to say about a malfunction, but the bottom line is this: Satan has the ability that he can actually brainwash people, or he has the ability to go in and change the dynamics on the computer. It's a possibility that that missile that hit that building was deliberately strayed off course by this supernatural entity. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Trust me, I do know what I'm talking about. A matter of fact, the next level of danger that is right here upon us, they're saying that it's 10 years away, but it's not no 10 years away, pertaining to holograms. Holograms that now can present themselves in front of people and making somebody think that they're looking at something, whenever in actuality they're only looking at a mirrored image or an hallucination. These holograms that I'm talking about are going to actually transfigurate the way people can become deceptive in whatever that they want to be deceptive in. And like I said, you can call it an optical illusion if you want to, but the bottom line is this: whenever it becomes so crafty that it can envision a human being at church on Sunday that always sits in the same pew that everybody and their brother sees for an alibi, but that person in actuality is not there. They're actually committing some sort of act of crime, maybe even murder, across the street or on the other side of town. Whenever it gets to the point that what we're looking at, we don't know for sure what we're looking at, then the fullest extent of the optical illusions pertaining to holograms will now be upon us. And in some degrees, it already is. In some degrees. We are dibbling and dabbling around with stuff, the same type of stuff that the Egyptians was dabbling around with back thousands of years ago. And I ain't talking about the Egyptians during Moses' era. I'm talking about the Mayan Egyptians, the original the original era, whenever it was thousands of years ago, that this is the reason why God caused that era to end. We've seen it as the ending of the dinosaurs, but it wasn't just the ending of the dinosaurs. It was the ending of mankind that was taking that type of enhanced materials and using it for manipulated purposes. We are fringing on those same type of man-made, manipulated inventions that is now causing havoc all over the world. You know, it come on board, and I've said this before too, it's come on board as the best thing since anything has ever been designed, towards it being the greatest thing ever in the world. Computers, satellites, internet, etc. Once it's fully discovered, people are going to realize that AI, computers, internet was actually an Achilles heel as a Trojan horse whenever people originally thought that it was some sort of a gift, and now they're realizing that it was evil and that it was not a gift as far as it being a blessing, but in actuality it was a curse. Right now, they're looking at another possible failure of a bank. These things are upon us, and we need to identify the dangers.
The second biggest bank failure in U.S. history, Silicon Valley Bank in March. Tom Costello has been looking this new report over. Tom, the Fed essentially admitting it failed here.
Yeah, that's right. The Fed says there's plenty of blame to go around in the failure of SVB. It says, first, this is a textbook case of bank mismanagement. And in a mea culpa, the Fed says it also failed. Government regulators did not understand the depth of the bank's problems and were far too slow to react. One big issue, the Fed's very bureaucratic regulatory oversight system. The Fed is now considering whether to require banks to have more cash on hand and tougher regulatory rules. Lester.
Keep in mind, it was Trump that released some of those mandatory demands that was put on the banking industry during the time that he was president, that put a lot of laxness in their performances that now are catching up to these banking institutions.
Tom, meantime, there's growing concern about another bank that's in trouble, First Republic. What do we know?
That's right. Our partners at CNBC are reporting the government is preparing to put First Republic into an FDIC receivership. Last month, 11 banks put $30 billion into the bank to keep it afloat. Its stock has lost 97% of its value since this crisis started in March. So this crisis has grown even more acute, Lester.
All right, Tom Costello, thanks. In 60 seconds, we speak to the friends of detained Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, what they say he told them when they raised concerns that he might be in danger, plus the 7th grade hero who saved a bus full of school kids, all of it on video. Next.
Harry Smith, NBC News, New York.
A Michigan 7th grader is being called a hero for jumping into action when his school bus driver passed out. The heart-pounding moments all caught on camera. Here's Kristen Dahlgren.
It could easily have been disaster. Surveillance video capturing the moment a Michigan bus driver radios in that she's not feeling well. She starts to slow down, but passes out as the bus rolls toward oncoming traffic. That's when 13-year-old Dylan Reeves jumps into action, pushing the brake and steering the bus and 65 of his fellow students to a safe stop.
You would think in the middle of this panic, you just jump on the brake. He had the wherewithal to push it slowly, likely in anticipation that the bus was full of passengers.
The 7th grader stays in control.
In my 35 plus years of education, this was an extraordinary act of courage and maturity on his part.
As Dylan was honored at his middle school, his parents said they're not surprised.
He's been on my lap, driving country roads, pulling in driveways since about 4 years old.
To do something like this just fills my heart. It makes my heart skip a beat. I'm extremely proud of him.
The bus driver still not identified, but tonight undoubtedly grateful to the brave young student who stepped in to save the day. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News.
Story still ahead. The future is here. Political ads generated by artificial intelligence and the urgent concerns that technology is raising heading into the 2024 election.
This Mother's Day, show mom.
Good for that teenager, that little kid that done that.
Hey. Disinformation has surged in our political campaigns, but some critics worry the explosion of AI technology could take the 2024 cycle to a whole new level.
This is the very thing that I was talking about pertaining to manipulation and powers being energized through evil, demonic, wicked spirits. that can actually cause planes to drop out of the sky thousands of feet, that actually can cause bad accidents, can cause all kinds of ripple effects in this particular computer age industry.
Hallie Jackson reports in our series AI Revolution.
This just in. The Republican National Committee this week using computer-generated video to show apocalyptic what-if scenarios for President Biden to be reelected.
It feels like the train is coming off the tracks.
But AI in politics is hardly hypothetical. It's here. From fake pictures of Donald Trump getting arrested to a fake video of President Biden instituting a military draft.
The recommended way forward will be to invoke the Selective Service Act.
Artificial intelligence, with its easily accessed voice cloning and face swapping tools, adding a new dimension to the political universe.
What I worry about in particular is that...
Now let's back up a little bit. Let's say...
From fake...
Let's say that the leader of Russia, Putin, decides that he's lost all sense of reality to the point that he's willing to start a nuclear holocaust. And he gets on satellite TV and something that looks identically to him puts out this dire warning of what's fixing to happen. And people, agencies all over the world respond to that. Do you realize how dire that could be for humanity?
Donald Trump getting arrested to a fake video of President Biden.
Fake, fake, fake. Fake news. Artificial intelligence. Kind of like artificial sugar. Our generic this. Our aftermarket that. We have reached an era in our lives to where now we do not grasp whether or not what we are looking at is truly in the true form, or whether or not it's been animated in some laboratory or even in some film set to make it look like it's reality, but in reality it's actually artificial. It's fake.
Biden instituting a military draft.
The recommended way forward will be to invoke the Selective Service Act.
Artificial intelligence, with its easily accessed voice cloning and face swapping tools, adding a new dimension to the political universe.
What I worry about in particular is that 2024 will be a GPT election. It will be the first time that these technologies are available in the context of an election, in the context of hundreds of millions of dollars, trying to push into the persuasion space.
In some ways, AI helps political operatives, making it easier to fundraise or communicate with voters. NBC News has learned the Democratic National Committee, for example, has experimented with drafting campaign emails using AI, according to a source familiar, who says a staffer still edits before anything's sent widely. Eric Wilson's a Republican digital strategist.
We're really excited about the potential for artificial intelligence to help make campaigns more interactive and to really free up campaign staff to hire better uses of their time, just like any other tool would.
Still, there's a dangerous downside to AI, the risk of disinformation.
And allowing Republicans to vote.
Take this computer-generated Elizabeth Warren, suggesting Republicans shouldn't be allowed to cast ballots.
It is necessary to restrict Republican voting in the 2024 election.
The senator never said that, but...
Now, keep in mind what I just said about somebody possibly starting a nuclear war. Keep in mind of that in which what I just said about the holograms coming into play towards being a delusion that you're actually looking at, but in actuality you're not looking at. These things are coming on board, just as the individual talked about. Let's back up a little bit. Let's back up just a little bit. Are coming on board, just like this individual right here spoke about, towards being the best.
Wilson's a Republican digital
Towards being the best thing that's ever come on board. Listen to his words.
strategist.
We're really excited about the potential for artificial intelligence to help make campaigns more interactive and
to help make campaigns more interactive. That's how it's coming on board. Does it not tell us in the Bible that the beast that will take on a life source of its own will come on board in giving the appearances of being the best thing that's ever been designed or created since all the other inventions combined? That's what the Bible says. The Bible says to watch out for these things, because as it's sneaking into people's lives in the form of being good, it has no intentions towards being good. What it has intentions of is manipulating humanity, deceiving humanity, in thinking that they're looking at one thing, but in reality they're looking at something totally different. And I'm telling you, this is all the signs of what the Bible talks about pertaining to him or her that would not worship the beast, that would not take the beast number 666, that they will have to be physically forced into either being beheaded, according to the Bible, or they will literally starve because they did not participate in this beastly beast indicative moment that now has come upon to society. This is real. And it has real repercussions. Even though what you may be looking at may not be real, it may have been generated, it still has real repercussions. And if you don't believe me, look at some of the divorces that's happened just within the past 7, 8, 10 years that was related around artificial intelligence, because somebody said something that hurt somebody's feelings, or somebody got hooked on maybe porn or something like that and wasn't taking care of their manly duties with their wife. The wife finds out about it. She dumps him. It has caused chaos. Total chaos. Once more, it comes on board and looking like it's the best thing.
And to really free up campaigns.
It comes on board and making it give the appearance
A Republican digital strategist.
that
it's a good thing.
Potential for artificial intelligence to help make campaigns more interactive and to really free up campaign staff to hire better uses of their time, just like any other tool would.
Still, there's a dangerous downside to AI, the risk of disinformation.
And allowing Republicans to vote.
Take this computer-generated Elizabeth Warren, suggesting Republicans shouldn't be allowed to cast ballots.
It is necessary to restrict Republican voting in the 2024 election.
The senator never said that, but AI can make it easier for anyone, not just experts, to create fake content. To show you how simple it can be, we tried prompting one AI site with something ludicrous.
Politician kicking puppies.
But some strategists worry about what could happen when the lines blur around what's real and what's not.
To the extent that AI allows people who are trying to deceive people, to the extent that they can do that with better content, will be problematic.
New technology and a new political frontier. Hallie Jackson, NBC News, Washington.
That's a lot to process. When we come back, why the voice you hear on your next train or bus ride just might be one of these kids.
Have heart failure with unresolved.
Very dangerous. We're walking off into dangerous territory right now with all this. Very, very dangerous.
Homecoming at a local school, sure, to warm your heart. We're tracking some rain this weekend. That's on 966.
Way for National Autism Awareness Month. It's giving kids an exciting new way to have their voices heard. Rahema Ellis with tonight's Inspiring America.
It's another busy commute in New York City. But listen closely to this announcement.
Hello, passengers. If you see someone at risk of falling onto the tracks, please get help immediately.
That is fantastic. You memorized the whole thing.
Yeah.
6.5-year-old Morgan Calles is autistic. This month, Morgan, along with more than 100 kids and young people like him, recorded safety messages for transit systems.
Never place anything in or near the doors.
Now in its second year, the Autism Transit Project has gone from just being in New York to other big cities around the country.
Watch your belongings and have a good day.
The PSAs were made for Autism Awareness Month. Jonathan Trichter has founded special needs schools in New York and Connecticut. He's behind the project.
It's done a lot for their confidence and also working themselves into civic life in a more meaningful way.
Who was that? It's me. Morgan's reaction, priceless.
So excited hearing my voice.
Morgan's mother, Brenna, says this program helps to promote inclusion.
This project is really great to highlight kids whose voices you might not get to hear.
What feeling do you have when you're riding the train?
I have an awesome feeling.
Now, so do the rest of us, hearing his voice.
Be safe and happy Autism Awareness Month.
Rahima Ellis, NBC News, New York.
And that's Nightly News for this Friday. Reminder, join me for an all-new Nightly News Kids Edition with lots of fun, science, and a live audience of kids tomorrow morning here on NBC. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night.
Next that movie is the last time on it 20 seconds.
Hand leads to a successful quilt week.
American Quilt Society, turns in a permit to the city, and that's where we really start addressing where the issues are or where they're not going to be. So we'll work off that permit and decide where we need to deploy people.
Quinn says this week means all hands on deck.
This particular instance this year, we have one officer that's assigned strictly to the quilt show, and anyone that's working in the area is encouraged to provide extra patrols to the area to make sure that everyone's staying safe.
Over at Baptist Health, Paducah, it's the same thing. ER Director Allison Rain says they double up when quilters are in town.
Seen a lot of falls. We've seen a lot of people who are getting overheated and are not taking their medicines or eating appropriately and have been having some episodes of passing out, or what we call syncope.
She says activity in the ER has been busy since the kickoff of Quilt Week, already seeing 50 patients from the event alone.
We always prepare for an increase in volume and try to get the staff ready and motivated, and so we know what we're usually going to have during Quilt Week. We know the volume's going to be higher. We know there's going to be a lot of trauma, a lot of different injuries. So we just try to prepare the staff and get everyone motivated.
Despite the extra traffic, Rains and Quinn both agree first responders are welcoming the week with open arms.
We're very thankful for Quilt Week. I think it brings a lot of tourism to the city. And so that, I think, is a huge plus.
When we're going to do everything that we can, partnering with the city and AQS to make sure that the out-of-town visitors have the best experience they can.
Paducah Fire is also on scene this week, and they say it's been pretty calm. Most of their duties include passing out bandages and giving out direction. Live at Quilt Show, WPSD, Local 6. Ariana, thank you.
If people have a lot of questions, especially about metallic thread, because it's harder to work with, and I'd love to share with them, okay, here's what I do, I'll share any information I have, here's how I do it, and that's why I like to be here.
You might remember that quilt from last year's quilt show made by Marlene Beeler. It had 23,000 crystals on it and 1.6 million stitches of metallic thread. But that's not the only reason why the quilt stood out. She also made an outfit that perfectly matched her quilt. This year, Marlene is back, dressing for the part once again. Local 6's Blaine McDonald continues our team coverage from the quilt show. All right, Blaine, tell us more about her outfit.
Jasmine, her outfit, if you look at mine, it is no comparison. She had embroidery down her pants with flowers and those hand-placed jewels that you just talked about all over her sleeves, and her outfit was just full of color in general. outfit. She traveled about 5.5 hours to see her quilt hanging in the show. But her outfit is an attraction itself. Like her quilt, it has hand-placed jewels and matching colors. She has been here this week talking about her quilt and how she did it while matching it. Sing Me a Rainbow took over 400 hours to make, and it has 5,000 of those hand-placed jewels. She didn't win, but she said the time spent is definitely worth it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's just fun, you know, and then to put the bling on it, it takes a long time because you got to do them one at a time, you know, and glue them on there or whatever, but it's absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth it to come to a show and see it hanging.
I will say that the people that came to see Marlene and her quilt left with a smile, and so did I. Jasmine, I have been here all week long at the quilt show, and I'm just not sure how these quilters do it because I am worn out. Also at the quilt show, Blaine McDonald, love you, WPSD Local 6.
Thanks, Blaine. Blaine, there's one more day left to get a look at these quilts. The doors open at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, closing at 4 o'clock. A Carlisle woman is accused of being under the influence of drugs when trying to pick up children from a school. Jacqueline Franklin admitted to having snorted a Lortab pill prior to arriving at the middle school. Franklin also admitted to having Percocet in her possession. She's charged with possession of a controlled substance in the first degree, wanton endangerment, and DUI. A gun in a student's backpack went off in a classroom today in Tennessee. The bullet grazed a teacher. Happened in Knoxville. Police say the discharge of the weapon was not intentional, but the student is still being charged with reckless endangerment, reckless aggravated assault, and possession of a weapon on school grounds. The teacher wasn't identified, but the superintendent says they were in good spirits despite the incident.
You know, just to show again the heart of our educators and the heart of this individual, just to say, you know, I don't want to be recognized. I took care of my kids today. I love my kids, and I'll be back on Monday. I think that says a lot. So in good shape, obviously, you know, was here, was able to attend the staff meeting, those sorts of things.
The superintendent said extra mental health support for students and staff was brought in today and will also be available on Monday. New at 6, we told you at the top of the newscast about a heartwarming military homecoming today at a local school. As you can see behind me, Philip Whitaker, dressed up as the school's mascot in Caldwell County. Students swarmed Dad as he found his daughter, and her reaction was everything you might expect. Take a look. That's Gina Whitaker embracing her dad, who has been serving overseas in Jordan. He's been gone from home since last November. Dad says he'll remember that moment for a long time.
I thought, well, I know she's not going to expect me to come home. So this is my opportunity to give her that moment, you know, give me that moment to have with her. We'll remember this for the rest of our lives. And, you know, my wife is the shy one, and she kind of hid over there in the corner. But, you know, for me and her, we can relive this over and over again.
Philip will go back to serving in the Army in Jordan in 2 weeks, where he'll remain until August.
God bless our military people. God bless our veterans. They sacrifice so much. The family sacrifice so much in trying to maintain and keep our freedom.
Sticking with the patriotic pride this evening, an uplifting story about a wounded bald eagle nursed back to health. Coming up, how an American flag made his recovery possible. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
When you get...
Those are all good notes, but once more, let's keep in mind the very obstacle that this individual has in front of him is the very thing that the Bible talks about. I truly believe that the beast and he who did not worship the beast will basically be fine-tuned out of society in some form or fashion, that if you do not participate in this type of activities, you will not be allowed to basically survive. That is where this is all leading. I'm thoroughly convinced of that. Like I said, whenever the computer first come on board, it was looked upon as being the best invention of all inventions that mankind has ever invented since the wheel. But now we're realizing the potentials in it being basically very vulnerable in how that it can manipulate people and make people believe that this is happening when in actuality that's not occurring. So please, whoever gets a hold of this message, there's still good in the world, and lots of it, regardless whether you're making a quilt or you're a military or you're saving an eagle or other things that you've just witnessed on this particular program. But also realize the pitfalls of the dangers that now have become a reality, to where just a few years ago we never even began to suspect or suspicion. Now these things are coming full circle in understanding what we're up against. It's not just the outlandish guns that fortunately nobody got killed, that the child was in a school with, that we're having to deal with. But it's the drugs, and it's the problems that are being amplified because of the very tool that this individual is looking down upon, called the computer. Good luck to all of us as we end this program by saying, God bless America, God bless our endeavors, God bless the American vision of a better tomorrow based around democratic, a free society, and shalom.